Sometimes it's nice to get away from the hustle and bustle of work. A night or two spent in a hotel in the country where you can relax and unwind. Unless that hotel is in Chicago's Englewood neighborhood and the hotelier is Dr. Henry Howard Holmes, otherwise known as the serial killer H.H. Holmes. Holmes was born Herman Webster Mudgett on May 16, 1861, in Gilmanton, New Hampshire, as the third child of Levi Horton Mudgett and Theodate Page Price, both of whom were descendants of the area's first English settlers. He had two older siblings, Ellen and Arthur, and a younger brother, Henry. As an adolescent, Holmes attended Phillips Exeter Academy before graduating with honors from Gilmanton Academy at the age of 16. Holmes's parents were both devoted Methodists. His father came from an agricultural family and worked as a farmer, trader, and house painter. He was also said to be a strong drinker who physically abused his children. Holmes was also bullied by classmates because of his superior intellectual talents. In one incident, he was forced to stand in front of a human skeleton and place the skeleton's hands on his face in an attempt to scare him. Initially afraid, Holmes later found the experience intriguing and claimed that it helped him overcome his fears. Following the event, Holmes became obsessed with death and began dissecting animals. In 1879, Holmes attended the University of Vermont for 1 year. In 1882, he joined the University of Michigan's Department of Medicine and Surgery. Despite his low academic record, Holmes graduated in June 1884. While enrolled, he worked in the anatomy lab for Professor William James Herdman, the chief anatomy instructor at the time, and the two were accused of facilitating grave robbing to supply medical cadavers. Holmes had trained in New Hampshire under Nahum White, a well-known promoter of human dissection. Years later, when Holmes was accused of murder and claimed to be nothing more than an insurance fraudster, he admitted to using cadavers to swindle life insurance companies multiple times in college. In August 1886, Holmes relocated to Chicago and began using the alias H.H. Holmes. Shortly after his arrival, he discovered a drugstore on the northwest corner of South Wallace Avenue and West 63rd Street in Chicago's Englewood neighborhood. Elizabeth Holton, the drugstore's owner, hired Holmes, who worked hard and finally bought the store. Holmes purchased an empty lot across the street, where construction began in 1887 for a 2-story mixed-use building, with apartments on the second floor and retail spaces, including a new drugstore on the first. When Holmes declined to pay the architects or the steel company, Etna Iron and Steel, they took him to court in 1888. In 1892, he added a third floor, telling investors and suppliers he intended to use it as a hotel during the upcoming World's Columbian Exposition. Contemporary accounts report that the building was designed with hidden passageways, trapdoors, soundproof rooms, and a maze-like layout to trap and confuse victims. The structure apparently contained secret torture chambers, gas chambers, and a basement crematorium. Other accounts state the hotel had over 100 rooms and was designed like a maze, with doors leading to brick walls, windowless rooms, and dead-end staircases. The murder castle, as it was later dubbed, was very much open for business. Holmes' mistress, 31-year-old Julia Smythe, was the wife of Dr. Lawrence Connor, who had moved into his building and started working at the pharmacy's jewelry counter. When Connor discovered Smythe's affair with Holmes, he quit his job and moved away, leaving Smythe and their 5-year-old daughter Pearl Connor behind. Smythe got custody of Pearl and stayed at the hotel to continue her relationship with Holmes. Julia and Pearl both disappeared on Christmas Eve, 1891. Holmes initially claimed Julia had left unexpectedly to visit her dying sister, but later revised his statement to say she had escaped her ex-husband. Holmes later then claimed that Julia died during an abortion. He further claimed to have poisoned Pearl, most likely to conceal the circumstances surrounding her mother's death. A partial skeleton, possibly of a child around Pearl's age, was discovered while digging Holmes's cellar. Emmeline Seagren, 23, started working in Holmes's building in May 1892 and worked for him for 6 months. Holmes apparently employed Seagren as a secretary because of her relationship to a doctor who sold a vaccine that claimed to heal alcoholism. Those who saw Seagren in the weeks leading up to her disappearance reported that she looked to have lost interest in Holmes and their relationship. Seagren last appeared in December 1892. Her parents were told that she had departed to marry a man named Robert Phelps. Authorities hypothesized that she became pregnant by Holmes, maybe as a result of another failed abortion that Holmes attempted to hide. Her empty luggage trunk was returned to her mother in Anderson, Indiana, while her skeleton was discovered by authorities at the house of a Chicago physician with the assistance of M.G. Chappell, who admitted to acquiring 3 skeletons for H.H. Holmes. In early 1893, Wilhelmina Minnie Williams, a 24-year-old former actress, went to Chicago. Holmes claimed to have met her in an employment agency, although it is thought that he met her in Boston several years before while using the alias Harry Gordon. Holmes offered her a position at the hotel as his personal stenographer, which she accepted. Holmes convinced Williams to transfer the deed to her property in Fort Worth, Texas, to a man named Alexander Bond, an alias for Holmes. In April 1893, Williams transferred the deed, with Holmes acting as notary. The following month, Holmes and Williams rented an apartment in Chicago's Lincoln Park, presenting themselves as husband and wife. Minnie's younger sister, 18-year-old Anna Nanny Williams, paid a visit. She wrote to her aunt that she intended to accompany brother Harry, Holmes, to Europe. In it, she signed off with the message, "Brother Harry says you need never worry about me again, financially or otherwise. He and sister will look after me. I hope our difficult days are over." Minnie and Nanny were never seen again, and Holmes continued to use Minnie's name in future scams. And there were more. Many more. John DeBray, Holmes's 68-year-old creditor, died of apoplexy at the Murder Castle drugstore. A witness stated that Dubray slumped and died immediately after Holmes poured a black liquid down his neck. Foul play was not suspected. In 1895, it was determined that Dubray's life had been insured, and Holmes had benefited from his death. Emily Van Tassel disappeared after working at Holmes's drugstore. Holmes spoke of her in his confession. In 1897, Tassel's name was cited in a list of suspected victims, and Tassel's mother believed she was a possible victim. Dr. Russler had an office at the castle and went missing in 1892. Holmes confessed to killing Russler. Kitty Kelly, a stenographer for Holmes, also vanished in 1892. John Davis of Greenville, Pennsylvania, went to the 1893 World's Fair and disappeared. In 1920, he was legally deceased. Harry Walker of Greensburg, Indiana, went missing in November 1893. He was alleged to have insured his life to Holmes for $20,000 and wrote to friends that he was working for Holmes in Chicago. In June 1894, Holmes transported George Thomas to a Mississippi marsh on the Tombigbee River, where he killed him and disposed of his body. He later confessed the crime to his second wife. Milford Cole of Baltimore disappeared after Holmes sent him a telegraph inviting him to Chicago in July 1894. Lucy Burbank was another potential victim. Her bank book was discovered with human hair in a chimney flue at the castle in 1895. Holmes's murder spree came to an end on November 17, 1894, when he was apprehended in Boston after being tracked down by the private Pinkerton National Detective Agency. Holmes was tried in October 1895 for the murder of Benjamin Peitzel and his 3 children. Following his conviction, Holmes admitted to 27 murders in Chicago, Indianapolis, and Toronto, as well as 6 attempted murders. The true number of deaths is unknown, but it could be in the hundreds. The Hearst newspapers paid Holmes $7,500 in exchange for his confession. On May 7, 1896, Holmes was executed at Moyamensing Prison for the murder of Pitezel. Until his death, Holmes remained calm and friendly, with few signs of fear, worry, or sadness. Despite this, he requested that his coffin be made of concrete and be buried 10 feet deep to prevent grave robbers from stealing his body and dissecting it. Holmes's neck did not break. He slowly strangled to death, jerking for more than 15 minutes before being pronounced dead. In August 1895, an attempt to burn down the castle failed. The structure survived the fire and remained in use until it was demolished in 1938. The site is currently occupied by the U.S. Postal Service's Englewood branch. In 2017, during rumors that Holmes had escaped execution, his body was exhumed for testing by Janet Monge of the University of Pennsylvania Museum of Archaeology and Anthropology. His body did not decay properly since his coffin was made of concrete. His clothes were quite perfectly preserved, and his mustache was discovered to be intact. His teeth confirmed that the body belonged to Holmes. He was subsequently reburied.